hit it out with this. BOP staff, including a particular BOP investigator, Investigator 1, has constantly monitored the defendant communication and monitored communication channels, including monitored phone lines. This monitoring is independent of the case team. Get the fuck out of here. Hey, yo, these people crazy, yo. The Assistant United States Attorneys charged with the investigation and prosecution of the defendant, and is not done at its direction. So they saying that Investigator 1 ain't got nothing to do with what they got going on. Investigator 1 is just somebody that work at the prison. As set out in the government's November 15, 2024 brief and made clear on the record during the previous bail hearings, the government's grand jury investigation of the defendant, including the defendant obstruction related to this criminal case, is continuing. So investigating. As part of that investigation, the government has sent grand jury documents requests to the BOP for the defendant's monitored communications, including calls and emails. For those materials, the government has learned that the defendant has persisted engaging in obstructive conduct since he entered BOP custody. Among other things, the defendant has engaged in unauthorized communication practices, including three-way calling on the monitored phone lines. 2, use of other inmates' phone access codes. So this is all stuff that we read up. Numbers to make phone calls on a monitored phone line. And 3, use of third-party text messaging provided through BOP monitoring email system. Each of these methods of communication is prohibited by BOP. Furthermore, as set out in the government's November 15, 2024 brief, the defendant used these unauthorized methods of communication to continue to engage in obstruction, including by instructing third parties to reach out to witnesses and attempting to influence the jury pool in this criminal case. The defendant has used all 3 of these aforementioned methods of communication to communicate with his attorney. Accordingly, although it's clear to all parties involved that these calls and emails are monitored, in an abundance of caution, the government sent any potentially privileged communication, i.e., any communication involving an attorney, to the filter team for review before it was released to the case team, as is the government's long-standing practices and ongoing covert investigations, such as the investigation into the defendant's obstructive conduct in the MDC. The government did not disclose potentially privileged communication to defense counsel in its first instance. Why though? As stated in the government's opposition to the defense, the government's intend to produce all defendant calls and emails in full to defense counsel today. So you use it against them. So these motherfuckers is crazy. So you use it against them and then send it to his team? Is that protocol? I don't know if that's protocol, y'all. But we ready to find out. We ready to keep reading. In or around October 28, 2024, the BOP and several other federal and state agencies initiated a sweep of MDC. The sweep was pre-planned and coordinated to ensure the safety and security of staff and inmates at the MDC, and was part of a larger safety and security initiative and did not in response to any particular threat or intelligence. So this was a random search, but it was pre-planned. The MDC sweep included the jail and the warehouse where MDC food and other properties are stored. It was planned well in advance of the defendant's arrest and was not conducted to target any particular inmate, including the defendant. During the MDC sweep, multiple housing units were searched, including the defendant's unit. Although members of the case team were aware in advance that the defendant housing unit would be searched, in addition to other areas of the jail, no one on the case team supervised conduct or participated in the search of any housing unit, nor of the defendant bunk area. In fact, the case team was not aware in advance of what agent and officers were conducting the search of that housing unit. Investigator 1 was assigned by BOP to participate in the week-long sweep present at the MDC during the operation. During the sweep of the defendant's housing unit, Investigator 1 interviewed multiple inmates, including the defendant, about potential corruption and contraband at MDC.